Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson. This is Management 2. We are now on Chapter 4, Managing Decision Making. Right? Decision making is very important in the management field. You'll have to make decisions every single day. Sometimes you'll make the right decisions. Sometimes you will make the wrong decisions, but we have to learn from those wrong decisions. I've made a plenty. As I always say, my quota is about 17.5 mistakes a day. But it's how you respond to the mistakes that you make as opposed to needing to be always needing to be right. Learning outcomes. After studying this chapter, you should be able to define decision making and discuss types of decisions and decision making conditions. You need to be able to discuss rational perspectives on decision making, including the steps involved. You need to be able to describe the behavioral aspects of decision making and discuss group and team decision making, including advantages and disadvantages, and how it can be more effectively managed. And that's a big thing. Like, do you make a decision in a group? Do you just take the lead and say, I'm just going to make the decision on my own? What's right? What's most important? What's most appropriate for the situation? And like I said, I've done it the wrong way, and I've also done it the right way. So you have to learn to do things the right way. And when you do things the wrong way, you need to learn from the fact that you did them the wrong way and don't repeat those mistakes because that's even worse. All right. So the nature of decision making. So what is decision making? Decision making is the act of choosing one alternative from among a set of alternatives. You are going to make decisions every single day, right? You make a decision to get out of that bed, get up, go to work, go to school, things of that nature. You should make those appropriate decisions. But some days, maybe if you went out too much last night, maybe you don't make the correct decision to get up. But that's a byproduct of what you did the prior night. Decision-making process over here on the left, recognizing and defining the nature of the decision of a decision situation, right? So know that, I can either go to Ralph's or I can go to Food for Less. Identifying alternatives, choosing the best alternative, right? I want to go to Food for Less because the prices are a little bit lower. And putting it into practice. So then I'm actually going to get in the car, go to Food for Less, pick up my groceries, and then I'm good to go. Right? We make decisions all day, every day, but we have to know and understand that we also make decisions in the business realm as well, and we want to make the correct decision there too. So types of decisions, right? So you have some decisions that it's like this: you get up in the morning, you take a shower. That's program decisions. That's a, or at least it should be. That's a given. But you have some non-program decisions where it's like if your company makes $10,000 worth of sales, do you order more product, and maybe you've never been in that situation before, or do you just wait till the next month and take a vacation because you don't think you're going to get any more sales calls, right? So it's a non-program one is more like one that just doesn't happen all the time, right? So sometimes it could be a little bit trickier. So a program decision over here on the left, a decision that is relatively structured or occurs with some frequency or both, right? So it happens all the time. You wake up all the time, you take a shower all the time. A non-program decision is a decision that is relatively unstructured and occurs much less often than a program decision, right? So it could happen multiple times, but typically it only happens, a few amount of times, and you have to learn how to, adjust and without having a crystal ball, because if you have a crystal ball, let me borrow it so I can see what's going to happen in the future. But I think targets out of those. But what you want to do is make sure that in making those decisions. So now we have the state of certainty. So a condition in which the decision maker knows with reasonable certainty what the alternatives are and what conditions are associated with each alternative. So meaning that you know that your alternative, when you get up in the morning, you take a shower. What conditions are associated with the fact that you take a shower, that you smell good, you smell fresh? What conditions are associated with the fact that you don't take a shower, that you don't smell good, people talk about you, things of that nature, right? So a state of certainty, you know and understand, if A happens, then B happens, right? So if A happens, then anything from B to Z could happen, then you don't have a high level of a state of certainty, right? The state of certainty is very, very low. State of certainty, I know what's going to happen here. I know if I keep driving my car and I don't have any gas, that I'm going to run out of gas. State of risk is a condition in which the availability of each alternative and its potential payoffs and costs are all associated with probability estimates, meaning that it's a probability. This may happen, this may not happen, I'm not sure. but I'm gonna roll the dice and take a risk because I think the risk is worth the amount of reward. So check out the diagram here, and I'll read that. So decision maker faces conditions of certainty, right, risk, and uncertainty. We know that those are all there. Level of ambiguity and chances of making a bad decision. So if it's uncertainty, of course the chance of making a bad decision are higher. And if it's you're in the certainty realm, then the chance of making a bad decision are much, much lower. So decision-making conditions, most major organizational decisions today are made under a state of uncertainty, right? So if they're made in a state of uncertainty, you're over here, and the risk of making a bad decision is higher. That's why you're a manager, and that's why you get paid a little bit more money, because the risk is there, and if it doesn't get handled appropriately, then it's your fault. And decisions today are made under state of uncertainty. Managers making decisions in these circumstances must be sure to learn as much as possible about the situation and approach the decision from a logical and rational perspective, right? Logical and rational perspective is lost among a lot of people, right? People tend to take their emotions and flood them into these decisions. Remove your emotions from the decisions, be logical, and be rational. Right? I know as humans there are emotional human beings, but this is business, right? You just use your emotional brain, and you'll be out of a job, or not progressing in that job. So you have to be logical in your approach, analytical in your approach. Helps a lot. So state and uncertainty, this is the third one that we hadn't gone over yet. A condition in which the decision maker does not know all of the alternatives, the risks associated with each, or the likely consequences of each alternative. So you don't know much. I'm very uncertain about what will occur here, but you know what? Sometimes you have to make those decisions. Just like if you hire somebody, you're very, you go through the interview process and you start to learn things, but you don't know exactly how somebody's going to end up being until they kind of get in there, and sometimes it may end up being too late. I want you guys to read the story Tough Times, Tough Choices, right? That's, common theme throughout the book, the wide world of risk, right? So we're going to talk about risk, but they have classes on this called project management and project risk management, just risk management, that shows people in the business industry how to handle these decisions and how to make the most appropriate decisions by using, a probability and rationale and things of that nature. Classical decision model. So let's check this out. And it doesn't always flow as smooth as 1, 2, 3, 4. I know that, but let's check out how the classical decision model looks. It says a prescriptive approach to decision making that tells managers how they should make decisions. It assumes that the managers are logical and rational, right? That's a big assumption, and that their decisions will be made in the organization's best interest, and that's a big assumption as well, right? So in order for you to follow the classical decision model, right, you have to be logical and rational. It doesn't have room for people who are only emotional. It needs to be logical and rational, and you follow these steps. So number one, decision makers have complete information about the decision situation and possible alternatives. Number two, they can effectively eliminate uncertainty to achieve a decision condition of certainty. Three, they evaluate all aspects of the decision situation logically and rationally. As we see later, these conditions rarely, if ever, exist, right? So you say, well, why do you put in the book if it rarely or ever exists? Well, because that's how it should be, and you try and stay within that framework, but it typically doesn't always go within there. So it says, when faced with a decision situation, managers should, then you go to the next box, obtain complete and perfect information, eliminate uncertainty, and evaluate everything rationally and logically. So this is what we went over, but it's just a step-by-step process. And end up with a decision that best serves the interests of the organization. So it's broken down in 3 components. So we want to do this, we want to make these decisions because they serve what's best for the organization. Steps in rational decision making, right? So now we're going to talk about rational and logical decision making. So to recognize and define the decision situation, identify appropriate alternatives, right? So what's alternative A, B, and C? Evaluate each alternative in terms of its feasibility, right? If A is the best choice, but it's no way we could do A, then B is going to be our choice. satisfactoriness and consequences. Select the best alternative, implement the chosen, so select the best one, implement the chosen alternative, and follow up and evaluate the results of the chosen alternative, right? So you want to follow up and figure out, was my decision making process correct, and was the decision that I made the most appropriate? Because you can't just make decisions and never revisit the situation. You need to make decisions and go back and see if that decision was actually what you should have done. And with the position that I have now, I do that a lot. Make some decisions. Sometimes it's correct decisions, sometimes it's not. But I go back and say, if this was the correct decision, I'll continue to make it. If it was not the correct decision, then I'll cease from doing that in the future. So these are steps in rational decision-making process. So here's the step, here's the detail, here's the example. I want you to go over this chart yourself, but I just want to read a couple just so you kind of understand it. So recognizing and defining the decision situation, right? Then here's the detail. Some stimulus includes that a decision must be made. The stimulus may be positive or negative, right? It may say that you're going to get a positive or negative effect from that. Example, a plant manager sees that employee turnover has increased by 5%. If it increased by 5%, then what decision do you need to make? You need to make certain decisions that make the employees more comfortable, allow them to feel like they want to stay at the company a little bit longer, right? So you have to, the step and the detail dictates, how you're going to handle or manage the situation. So I'll go over one more. So identifying alternatives. So both obvious and creative alternatives are desired. In general, the more important the decision, the more alternatives should be generated. So the more important it is, the more alternatives, the more spaghetti we're going to throw on the wall and see if it sticks. For example, a plant manager can increase wages, increase benefits, or change hiring standards, right? So if I increase wages, is there a possibility of me keeping people longer? Yes. If I increase benefits, is there a possibility of me keeping people longer? Yes. If I change hiring standards, is there a possibility of me keeping people longer because now I'm going to get individuals that I believe will stay much longer? Yes, there is, right? So I want you to go through the others on your own on 3 through 6. They're very, very good. They'll help you learn a lot about, not only about this textbook and the tests and quizzes and everything, but also a lot about life and a lot about business and things that you can actually use in the marketplace. It's cool because in the topic of management, these are things that you can apply to your day, to things that you do in the workforce right away. So check this out. So another little flow chart. Is alternative feasible? Yes. Then you go this way. If it's no, eliminate from consideration. Right. So I love how this flows. Is alternative satisfactory? Right. If it's no, eliminate from consideration. If it's yes, are the alternatives consequences affordable? Right. Can we afford if this happens in terms of the consequences? If it's no, eliminate it from consideration. If it's yes, remain for further consideration. Can you imagine if your manager went through this process right here on every decision that you guys made, right? Or if you are the manager, can you imagine if you did so? Wouldn't it be a less likelihood that you would come up with the wrong decision, and you would have a lot more success, right? Evaluating alternatives in the decision-making process. Managers must thoroughly evaluate all alternatives. This increases the chances that the alternative that is finally chosen will be successful. Failure to evaluate an alternative's feasibility, satisfactoriness, and consequences can lead to the wrong decision. And we don't want to make the wrong decision. We want to make the right decision. We want to be celebrated by our managers and bosses, and get raises and all kind of good things. So make sure you read through those sections right there. So I'm going to read this right here. This is Boeing. We should all be familiar with Boeing. Boeing and Airbus use rational perspective to arrive at different decisions about major investments in developing new airplanes. Airbus decided to build an A380, the world's largest passenger plane. Boeing, meanwhile, chose to develop a smaller but more fuel-efficient plane named the 788 Dreamliner. Right, so they use the same process, but they came up with different decisions. Well, it may depend on are you looking for long-term or short-term investment? Are you looking to create a product that you're going to sell off in the near future, or are you looking for a product that satisfies the needs of everyone and may be a little bit more expensive, but you expect for more people to purchase tickets and fly on that plane? All right, evidence-based management. So here's what they recommend: face the hard facts and build a culture in which people are encouraged to tell the truth even if it's unpleasant, right? So we're gonna tell the truth. Now some people, they're like, oh, I just tell the truth or whatever. Well, you know what? If you tell the truth, but you have a hint of a bunch of emotion behind it, you know what? That's not helping anybody. You need to stick to the facts, right? So tell the truth based on the facts. Be committed to fact-based, so there it is, decision making, which means being committed to getting the best evidence and using it to guide actions, right? So if we're going through this decision-making process and I have an alternative and my alternative is not the best one at the end of the day, I'm not going with that one. I'm going with the one that is the best for the company and for my department. You have to know and understand, like I said, it's not you're not in a I'm right competition, right? You don't get $1 for every time you're right. You don't get anything, right? You could be right 1,000,000 times and I could still get a bigger salary check than you. So what does it truly matter? What matters is going through the decision making process, make the appropriate decision, truly being heard, but not in an argumentative state, not in a I'm right competition. Treat your organization as an unfinished prototype. Encourage experimentation and learning by doing, right? Number 4, look for the risk and drawbacks in what people recommend. So even the best medicine has side effects, right? It could be the best thing. A miracle drug has a side effect. You see all those things they put on TV? Oh man, it's crazy. They say, hey, this is for your arthritis, but if you take it, you're going to go jump off of a building, you're going to run your car into a wall, this, and that. Those are the side effects. Notify the doctor. I'm going to notify the doctor if I just jumped off of a building, right? So you have to think about the fact that all alternatives have side effects. Number 5, avoid basing decisions on untested but strongly held beliefs, right? So you have these strong beliefs about somebody or something, right? But they're not tested, then don't bring those into play. What you have done in the past or uncritical benchmarking of what winners do, right? Oh, he's a winner. He did it successfully. I'm going to do it that way too. Doesn't always work out that way, right? You have to be rational, in terms of your thinking. So administrative model, a decision-making model that argues that decision makers, one, they use incomplete and imperfect information. 100% true. I make a lot of decisions off of incomplete and imperfect information. Number 2, are constrained by bounded rationality. And 3, they tend to satisfy when making decisions, meaning that I take I find a solution, right? But I'll say, you know what, that solution works, so let's roll with it. But I really should find what you call the second right answer. I want to find the best answer. I don't want to find, just an alternative. I want to find the best alternative. And as we spoke about under administrative model, bounded rationality. So this is a concept suggesting that decision makers are limited by values and unconscious reflexes, skills, and habits, right? So if it's not within my mind concept, if it's not, my brain is not allowing me to look at the entire scope, my bounded rationality is not going to understand your great and complex idea. My bounded rationality is only within this circle, but your idea is way out here in this circle, right, or this sphere, and your idea is great, but I can't understand what your idea is because my mind can only go this far, right? I've got the small brain that can't understand exactly where you're going with it. So when faced with a decision situation, managers actually, right, and this is very true. I love these boxes because it breaks it down, puts it in the appropriate place. Use incomplete and imperfect information, are constrained by bounded rationality, and tend to satisfy, and end up with a decision that they may or may not serve the interests of the organization. So in this administrative model of decision making, the administrative model is based on behavioral processes that affect how managers make decisions. Rather than prescribing how decisions should be made, it focuses on describing how they are made, right? Not how they should be made, but how they are made. And we talked about this satisficing the tendency to search for alternatives only until one is found, right? Remember I talked about the second right answer. That means that some minimum standard of sufficiency, right? Hey, you know what? This fits what the boss needs. Let's go. Let's hit a happy hour. Let's get out of here. I'm tired of doing work. No, you need to find the best answer, right? I want to find the best, right? If I'm looking for a car, I don't want to say, oh, yeah, this one will do. It's got 4 wheels and a steering wheel. I'm out of here, right? I want to find the best one. So in making those decisions in business, you should make them just like they pertain to your personal life, like there's some stake or some skin in the game. Coalition is an informal alliance of individuals or groups formed to achieve a common goal, right? So, We want to achieve a common goal. Sometimes coalitions are good, sometimes they're bad, right? Sometimes like, hey, we want to, turn this organization around, we want to make it more customer service friendly, this, and that. And then some individuals say, hey, we're just going to, have a coalition against this other individual because we don't like them. We don't think that, they belong into the group. And people are so funny in terms of that, how they try and route people out. I see it all the time at work. It's so interesting. So silly, but also so interesting. Intuition. So hopefully you guys have intuition. Some of you guys are a little bit older may have heard of the term mother's intuition or mother's wit. That's what this is, just a term in a business book. An innate belief about something without conscious consideration, right? So don't have conscious consideration, but my intuition tells me, hey, it's like your spidey senses, right? My spidey senses are tingling, as Spider-Man would say, because I'm thinking that, hey, something, it feels right or it doesn't feel right. Or you have like a hunch or something like that. So when you have those, that's your intuition. Tap you on the shoulder, say, hey, this is what's going to happen. Escalation of commitment is when a decision maker stays with the decision even when it appears to be wrong, which is, you might listen to that and say that's absolutely crazy, but people do it all the time. So you've invested some people rationale like this. I've invested all this time, I've invested all this money, I might as well see it all the way through. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to scrap things and you just have to say, this was a bad idea when I brought it up. It's still a bad idea. Let me just go ahead and scrap it. I've scrapped many things. I've tried things, thrown a lot of spaghetti on the wall. It didn't work, so I peeled that spaghetti off the wall and I threw it in the trash because it's not beneficial for me or the company to continue forward with that. I want you to read At Your Service, A Bad Decision at Wesaby, right? Check that out. They have such good stories in these books, not just this book, but in most of the textbooks that we have at the campus. I really, enjoy the fact that they take, real life things and attach it back to these terms because that way and understand, you can recognize it when you're out there in the real world and in business. Risk of propensity, right? So the extent to which the decision maker is willing to gamble when making a decision. Like, how much are you willing to gamble? Are you willing to gamble your career on that decision? Are you willing to gamble the possibility of having to fire an employee on a decision that you're going to make? So what's your risk propensity there? How much are you willing to gamble? It's just like if you go to Vegas and you hit the craps table, you're throwing your money down. Like, how much money are you willing to gamble, right? So how many people's career and how much of your career are you willing to gamble in terms of your decision, the decision that you've made within that company's framework. Interacting group or team is a decision-making group or team in which members openly discuss, argue about, and agree on the best alternatives. And argue about is probably the most accurate because that's mostly what's going on there. But they're a team, they're a group, and they're going to sit there and they're going to hash it out and they're going to figure out what the best alternative is. Now everybody has like a different agenda, so that's when it becomes tough. If everybody was on the same page and only looking out for the best interest of the company, it'd be a lot different because then it would be a lot easier for them to come up with the same or the most appropriate decision. But everybody has these hidden agendas. Everybody does these things differently. Everybody's looking out for different people. I want to look out for my friend, and I want to look out for my friend, and that clouds their decision-making process. If you could be, biased, right? It's the best way. Delphi group is a form of a group decision-making in which a group arrives at a consensus of expert opinion, right? So that's one way to do it. Now, nominal group is another way to do it. And then when I say this, maybe you've been a part of this before. It says a structured technique used to generate creative and innovative alternatives or ideas, right? So unlike the Delphi model, in which group members do not see one another, nominal group members are brought together in a face-to-face setting, right? So in Delphi, they don't see each other. In nominal, they're face-to-face. The members represent a group in name only. However, they do not talk to one another freely like members of interacting groups. Nominal groups are used most often to generate creative and innovative alternatives ideas. So in these two, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll gather your and garner your opinions and your ideas without them being influenced by other people, right? So you have certain processes in which, hey, we're all going to be in a room, we're all going to start talking about it. Maybe my idea is influenced by your ideas. Or we're going to have something where we're split apart. I'm just going to have you guys write down your ideas, filter them to me. I'm going to look at them, then we're going to discuss them because I don't want you being influenced by that other individual. So these are advantages and disadvantages of group and team decision making. And I will read through these real quick, but I want you to review it yourself. Advantages: more information and knowledge available because it's more people. More alternatives are likely to be generated because there are more people again. More acceptance of the final decision is likely, right? So if you come to that final decision, you guys go in there, box it out, and fight it in the room. You're gonna have more support when you come to one conclusion. Enhanced communication of the decision may result, and better decisions generally emerge, right? Just not all the time, but generally. Disadvantage: the process takes longer than individual decision making, so it's costlier, right? If I have to bring all you into a room to make a decision, it costs more because I have to pay you. If I just make the decision myself, it's a lot cheaper. Compromise decision resulting from indecisiveness may emerge, like we talk about analysis paralysis, meaning that I've analyzed something so much and now I'm in a state of paralysis where I can't make the decision. And one person may dominate the group. You always have that person continuously raising their hand, forcing their opinion down everybody's throat. And groupthink may occur. And groupthink meaning where everybody says one thing, you know what the right thing is. Like I'm saying the sky is blue and you're all saying it's green. And every day you come in and say it's green and I'm saying it's blue. Eventually I'm just like, hey, whatever. The sky is green just like everybody else said. Probably put a video on there about groupthink. That's one of the things that happened with NASA and the Challenger. Those decisions were made and the mistakes were made because of groupthink. Like one person said, hey, this is wrong. I know what's wrong. And then people were kind of like, hey, we don't want to hear it. A situation that occurs, this is groupthink, a situation occurs when a group or team's desires or consensus and cohesiveness overwhelms the desire to reach the best possible decision. Where else does that happen? That happens in juries, right? I know this guy was not guilty, and everybody else says he's guilty, so I guess maybe he was guilty. Maybe I'm just wrong. So now we're at the end of chapter 4. What a fun chapter. Summary of learning outcomes and key points. So I want you to make sure that you go over those to reemphasize your learning. If you're here, you probably did get all the way through the lecture. So watch the whole lecture, do the key learning, take the quizzes, do the homework assignments, and make sure that you're thorough in your learning. A test will be coming up soon. I'll announce that to the class. So that's it for chapter 4. See you again on the video for chapter 5. As always, have a good day.